Okay, let's go on a little coding adventure again and see what kind of interesting stuff we can come up with. So, what do we have here right now? We have some random stuff and this distorted, displaced drip thing that we were doing last time. But I think we're going to blow away some of this. Let's see. Let's hang on to the random because I can always use some randomness in whatever I'm going to do, I'm sure. But let's try to make something that looks actually kind of beautiful. Let's see if we can do that. So, random, yeah, that's fine, but well, we'll hang on to that. But let's create another one. Let's call it reflect, and what we're gonna do is take random and I know there's a function in here that radial reflect. There we go. The number of reflections. Let's try 3 and just throw this in here. And at some point I should improve on this code so that we can maybe so I can show it better on the screen, like get a little bit faster cycles here so we can kind of iterate on it faster. Okay, here is the reflect. So there are 3 reflections going on. Well, I'm not sure exactly where. It's either this line here, here, whatever. I guess it's, yeah, it's three reflections, but kind of ends up with 6 lines. But anyway, that's kind of cool, but I think we're going to go for 6 reflections. Kind of the, let's do the snowflake kind of approach. And we'll see what that looks like. There we are. Okay. So radial reflect, it's reflecting that data in at 6 lines around the, like, coming out from the center, because this is the radial calculation, and that's kind of what's going on. Is there's the radial stuff where we're reflecting at certain points as we go around that circle. Let's see, what should we do with this? Now, it's kind of a snowflake pattern. But what would make it a better snowflake pattern is probably if we could kind of cut it out. And so let's see if we can turn it into maybe like a mask or something like that. So let's take the output and let's scale it up. Let's just see what that does. So the values for 0 to 1, but we're gonna bump it up. Just kind of see what that gives us. Well, this is what we got right now. So, okay, that kind of just blew out too much of it. So instead, I think we're going to adjust it. So let's adjust it, and we'll take the output that comes out of it, and we'll do the output minus 0.5 times 10. So we'll kind of scale it up by 10, but first we're going to offset it. And this is one way to do it. There's like multiple ways to do it, I guess, with this library that we're using. So this is what we get. Still not terribly useful, but it shows some different kind of shape and stuff in there. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, but as far as the other way to do it, I think I was going to say that we could take the output and see, technically you can translate it by negative 0.5, I think, and then you could take it and scale it up by 10, which is like the same thing as what I had there. Let me double check that it comes out looking the same. Yeah, that is sorry, that's the same thing. So if you're actually watching this, this is rather boring in my opinion, but hopefully we can figure out something cool to do. Maybe find it relaxing, I don't know. Okay, so we got the reflection going, and we would like to cut out a mask to maybe make a snowflake. And we're kind of getting there, like using this technique. But I think what we need is in the raw image that we did, like, let me just comment out the rest of that. If we don't blow that image out of whack, what we end up with is kind of these levels here. And I think what we have to do is figure out, okay, we probably want the middle to be kind of bright and then it to start falling off. So let's see if we can adjust this in a way that's going to start giving us a better type of way to do the outline. So let's take that mix and let's mix. I'm going to subtract it, and what I'm going to subtract from it is the distance. And let's see what happens with that. Oh, sorry, I wasn't showing you the code. So yeah, we're going to sit here and we're going to subtract the distance from it. And here is what we get. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. If we take that now and scale it up by 10, because it's already pretty dim in most of the image, then we can start to get somewhere like this. So it's kind of cool. It's pretty boring, but it's kind of where we want to go. What we could do maybe is, so we have this random, and random looks like this, and that's not very detailed. So let's see if we can find a way to do more detail. What we could do is we could take random and say that random is equal to random plus we want to we'll mix add another random. However, this one we'll take the input and scale it by, let's make it smaller, like, so the detail, let's make it like 1/10 of the size so that the detail is a lot smaller. And you know what, let's just run that real quick and see what we end up with. And so now we have this. It's it's more detailed, but it's also blown out a little bit. So let's go back, since we're mixing two of them together. Let's take the output and scale it down to half. so that we're not blowing the color out. Kind of normalize it to the range of 0 to 1. And then, okay, so that's something. What does that do for our snowflake? It kind of just adds noise to it. It's not exactly what we're looking for. There's definitely more detail in there, but it's just kind of still looks fuzzy. So I think what we're doing, I think what would help is if instead of just adding more random like that, is maybe if we, and I'm just going to go off of some gut numbers here, instead of adding it, I'm going to actually say we want to take the input and displace it by another random. So we're going to take it and displace it this random amount by what angle? Well, let's do another random. And remember, these randoms are the same, so we can do some stuff with them to maybe mix it up. We could generate them with a different seed, or what we might do is let's just translate one of them. So just to kind of shake things up, take the input and move it over, because it's just an infinite plane of randomness for wherever we look at it. So we'll just let's move it over by 234 and 83. So whatever, just kind of offset it so that we're not maybe using the same random numbers overlapping each other doing different things. Who knows? It might look cool, but okay, so what do we got? This is what we got. It looks pretty crappy. However, we might be able to do something with that by, so we have a input scale down, but let's scale down. In the past, it looks like the amount of disturbance that we need doesn't need to be 1. It needs to be like a lot smaller amount. And so we'll see if we can improve on it by adjusting how much we're messing with it. And now we got this. So that's something. And if we look at what that gives us in the snowflake, okay, now we're getting somewhere. There's a little bit more going on here that makes it look interesting. Now the snowflake's not exactly connected. It's kind of cut off in a weird way, but maybe we can salvage it by kind of adjusting some more values. But I think we're getting there. Maybe we'll just kind of refer to how we can mess with this randomness. I think what I'd like to see here is larger details where we displace it. So maybe we won't scale this down so much. Let's just remove it and see what happens. So the size, basically that was the size of the displacement. There's a lot of like little tiny displacement going on in those in there, and not sure that I cared for it. Now I went back, looked at it. Okay, that's interesting, but I think what's going on is we actually have this one as well. So let's remove that, because basically we were displaced. Both of those parameters really affected displacement. Let's see if we can get a more pleasing displacement. Okay, now that's weird, but it might work. It's because here's what we're getting for a snowflake. Okay, interesting. Still not exactly something that works well for the mask, but yeah, I think we're kind of heading down the right road. Maybe what we'll do is I'm actually going to add in some of this again. So let's just take the input and scale it down to a smaller amount again. I'm not going to do the angle, I'll just adjust the scale of the displacement. Starting to take a little longer to run. Ooh, this is a little more interesting. You know, there's a little bit of the grid pattern is almost gone, but I think I'm noticing that some of the lines seem kind of vertical and some seem kind of horizontal. So let's also take one of these and take the input and rotate it by, let's do like 20 degrees and just see if that kind of gets us away altogether from a grid pattern. I mean, it's getting pretty random, so it's getting pretty far away from a grid, but I think we've kind of gotten there now. So we definitely got some weird swirls going on. Doesn't look as interesting on the snowflake, but this is some weird turbulence, that's for sure. So maybe we can now tweak some of the settings for the snowflake and see if we can improve on that. If we wanted the detail to be smaller, let's try, before we do the radial reflect, let's scale the input, like, see if we can get more detail just in the snowflake by doing that. It's just a matter of playing around and seeing what we can come up with. Yeah, now we're back to where we were, where it's too much noise. So, of course, that's a pretty big value. Let's do 0.4. And so let's see if that improves on it a little bit. And yeah, it's starting to take a little longer to run. That's a little better. It's kind of a little more what I was thinking. It's totally not like all connected yet or anything, but wonder if there's something else we can do with that. So I mean, we could totally format this better too. Like we're getting some long lines here. So we're subtracting the distance, which is giving us kind of the fall off from the center to the outside. So that's kind of what makes the center brighter and the outside darker. One way to change that up, I suppose, a little is we could do something with the distance. We could say, so the distance goes from 0 to 1, but let's say we take the output and just for the heck of it, I'm kind of curious what repeat does. Repeat every 1? Sorry, I'm just experimenting and I have no idea what some of this might look like, so, and it's curiosity, just kind of curious what we'll see. Okay, so it repeats every 1, and so we kind of end up with it looping through the fall off of the distance, which might be kind of cool in some cases. Not what I'm looking for, but never hurts to tinker around, right? So yeah, sorry, we're not repeating it, but let's take the output and adjust it where I'm going to just take the output. Oops. the output times the output. And what's interesting about this is we are like squaring it, and 0 squared is 0 and 1 squared is 1, but half squared is a quarter. So what you end up with is not a straight line going from 0 to 1. You end up with kind of a curve that slopes upward, like an exponential curve. So let's see how that affects the snowflake. So there we go. It's doing better at being attached to itself. We're definitely losing detail in the center, but it's not all bad. So this is random. Maybe what we could do is see what it looks like creating them with like a little bit different value. So let me just add like something else into the random calculation just to kind of see how it shakes things up, because this is going to be totally different based on having a different seed value for the randomness. And so here's a different snowflake, not very connected. There's some issues there, but yeah, I think we're getting somewhere. We could do something with these shapes. Maybe what we could do is determine a different way to mask them out, but use this to affect the color. So anyway, we've come quite a ways at just kind of generating some random shape, but this reflecting is kind of giving us a little bit of an effect we want. I think in the next one we're going to let's start working in color. Let's take this as a starting point, and let's see how interesting we can make the snowflake look when we start getting into some color. If you watch this is a fairly long one. Thanks for watching it, and hopefully we'll just keep going and keep getting better at this.